our guy Wilmer.
Yeah.
Wilmer Flores signed a contract. He re-upped his contract essentially.
Yeah.
It was gonna expire at the end of this year, and then the Giants signed him for 2 more years. And I was actually looking at his contract from the last 3 years. So he's been with the Giants since 2020. Base salary of $3 million. Now, because of the pandemic, they adjusted it. He only got like 30-something% of it or whatever it was.
Right.
And then last year, another $3 million. And then this year was $3.5 million. And so he's going to be a free agent in 2023. And the Giants just said, hey, we don't want you to be a free agent in 2023. And so they signed him to a 2-year deal for is it 13?
Let's see, 2-year deal, 13, so 6.5 per year.
So it's a bump.
Which is a great deal.
It's 100% bump from what he was making. So good for him. He is, I think the thing about Wilmer, not that I was surprised to see him get for the Giants to sign him to another 2 years, because there is value there. Like, it seemed they don't count this stat anymore, but when we were younger, they used to count the stat game-winning RBI.
Yeah, I love that stat. I always thought that was a great stat.
but Wilmer himself, you look at his overall numbers and you're like, I thought they would be a little bit better. But where his numbers stand out is, he's the guy getting the big hit and late in the game when the Giants are winning ball games. Like his numbers this year so far, he's still got a little bit of chunk of change left to play. He's only hitting 235. On base is 319. Slugging is 414. But he does have 18 home runs. He does have 66 runs scored. So there is value there. And I think the reason why we were so excited when he was signed, and we'd have to go back to the beginning of this podcast to see what we actually thought. But for me, the idea was he's got value in that you can throw him at third, you can throw him at first, and he's had to play some second this year, which is not my favorite version of Wilmer.
Why not?
But yeah, so there's a little bit of utility there, and he mashes lefties, and the way that the Giants put this team together, he seemed to be sort of like the perfect fit to face left-handers. Now, here's my question to you. We've been talking all season about this team is too old. This team is not athletic.
Right.
Bringing Wilmer back does not change that. He is the type of player that we've kind of been railing on all season long. But at the same time, he does have 18 home runs, so he has been productive. And I think on a better team, not one that is, I think we're 6 games under 500 after yesterday. Not on a team that is not a playoff team, his value probably doesn't look as great. But I don't know. I like the signing, but at the same time, I was like, okay, my big worry here is we're just running it back. And Zadie's like, nope, 2022 was a fluke. I'm like, that really worries me. But I think because there are players, Flores, Jock, Longo, that we'll have a discussion about Longo here when we talk about VR. But there are guys like that, and for the value, for the low dollar amount that it will cost to bring them back, I think they are worth that amount. But I also watched the other team when I was watching some of the replays of the games. It seemed like there were like 4 or 5 scoring opportunities that were the result of the fact that Jock Peterson can't play defense in left field. And so at the same time, right? So if you're putting together a team where maybe Wilmer can play a little bit of first, a little bit of third, DH against lefties, and Jock can exclusively DH against righties, if those guys don't have to play any defense, I think I feel a lot better about this signing. But I have a feeling these guys are going to have to play some defense, and that's where I'm like, oh my gosh, this is just going to remind me of all my nightmares from this year.
Yeah, and you said 2 key words: some defense.
Mm-hmm.
Right now, they're playing all the defense, which
defense.
which is not what you want. So this could be a glimpse into what is going to be happening next year. Okay, so we got Dominic Leone was DFA,
Yeah.
right? So and here comes Cole Waits. They want fire. They want a flamethrower right-hander. They want flamethrower left-handers. I think things are starting to change a little bit in that regard when it comes to pitching. Again, you can build the staff. DeSclafani, Wood, those guys are going to be back next year. So then when you start to look at the lineup, you say, well, what was our biggest fault this year? Obviously, the defense. We've talked about that. I don't know how many times the defense is just extremely faulty.
Every podcast.
Everybody, every single. We could just put crappy defense. We could just put that up on every show. But you hit the nail on the head. You're talking about a platooning DH. The Giants we talked about, and everybody's talked about this season as well. At one point, it said we have 8 DHs, and we only have 1 DH spot, and we have 8 DHs. And they're playing the field. We need to stop this. So if you can narrow it down and say, Jock Peterson, Wilmer Flores, okay, defense is not fantastic, but if you guys had to fill in the field somewhere, Jock can play left field, and like you said, Wilmer can play 3 different positions. He's the right-handed version of Tommy La Stella. Tommy La Stella just never materialized because of injuries, because of COVID, because of everything else that happened. But Wilmer Flores did. He materialized into what Zadie's vision is for a player on this team. But I think, unfortunately, there were too many lesser Wilmer Floreses on the team in terms of defense. And that's saying a lot because Wilmer's defense is not fantastic, but then you had guys out there who were playing lesser defense than Flores. So if you can get Flores and Peterson to DH, and then you can build a defensive team around that, but also guys who have a little bit of pop. I mean, Thairo Estrada, not the greatest defender, but he has some, an article I read today. He's playing a better shortstop and getting more comfortable at shortstop. And Crawford's last season under contract is going to be next season. Thairo is going to be around for a while. So you start building him into the shortstop position. Go out and get yourself a light hitting second baseman who can play a crazy good defense, a little bit of speed, larger bases next year.
Yeah.
Start building a speed defense team. I think, think in the 80s Cardinals, right? Can we get a couple of 100 stolen base guys? What did they have? Like 400 stolen base guys? So I think you're getting a glimpse of what Zadie is trying to do leading into next season. He's getting a head start, which is great. Anytime you have a guy on your roster and you say, I want to hang on to this guy. I don't want him to get out there to free agency. He doesn't want to go anywhere. Let's get that intact. So when free agency does open, we can start talking to the free agents to say, look at our lineup. Here's where you're going to fit in. Here's where you're going to play. Here's the majority of where you're going to play. It's not, you're going to be part 1 of 8 parts that are coming in. Well, if you can get that locked in and you can find that one guy and he can look at that lineup and say, these guys hit last year, and with me in there, I can steal some bases, I can score some runs, I can make those plays, I can keep our pitchers happy, and their ERAs down, which is nice. I like it. It's funny. I like this time of year. It kind of feels like the off season when you see moves like this, but then you go, but it's the off season, but we get to see the fruit of the off season tonight. I mean, Giants play the Braves tonight. We get to see Wilmer Flores play, and we know he's going to be around for 2 more years. I'm excited to see what kind of ovation he gets when he comes to the play, because I know the fans, we love him. I mean, he's a fantastic player, such a nice, happy guy, and he's got a Friends theme song lockup. I mean, you can't go wrong there, right?
And there's also an interesting piece to this contract because there's a 3rd year mutual team option. I can't even remember. I mean, I don't know if I've ever heard that before. Anyways, Flores can pick up the $3.5 million. If he declines and is like, hey, I want to be a free agent, the Giants can say, no, well, we want to pick this option up. So here's 8.5 and we're going to give it to you. Now, it's so tricky because if you're Wilmer and you have a so-so season, do you try and trick the Giants by picking up the 3.5, and then they're like, eh,
Yeah.
I'm sorry, yeah, pick up the 3.5 and then you decline, and then the Giants are like, and then you go into the free market and it's like, nope, there's your value is 2.5 or whatever. So this whole thing is like a tricky mind game between the two teams. I like it. It makes the
Yeah.
option a little bit more fun. And I wonder what the Giants gain out of doing this, because they have so much money that they could have
Right.
just gave him a 3-year deal and nobody would have blinked an eye, because it's $6.5 million. And we know that the Giants had their lowest payroll in years and years and years last year. So I don't know, this mutual option thing seems a little bit like a cheaper team would do stuff like this, but who knows? Well, I guess we'll hear more about it. But I thought this was an interesting little wrinkle to the deal.
Yeah, I hear what you're saying, but the Pirates would not do something like that. They would say, "Okay, bye. Your contract's up. Sorry, we're not going to pay you this $6 million huge contract that you want,
Yeah.
per year." But I like that, and I think it plays into it works out for everybody, because if Flores has a really bad season, he can pick up his 3.5, but he's also taking a pay cut. He's chopping his salary in half, but he's also 3 years older at that point.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and if he has a really good season and opts out, the Giants are saying, "Well, we'll pick up your option, and here's a $2.5 million raise." And again, knowing the Giants and knowing the way they work, I'm sure, and if they're in the money at that point and winning, I'm sure, and I think I've seen this before, but not with Zadie, they pick up that $8.5 million option and just say, "Here's 8.5 million. Let's work you a new 2-year
Mm-hmm.
contract,
Mm-hmm.
and then we'll get that 8.5 in there as well, and we'll take care of all of this." The Giants take care of their players. I mean, that's the bottom line, and that's why players do want to come to San Francisco, and that's why a guy like Flores says, "I want to stay in San Francisco."